So epoxy resin there, half and half part. Good idea to use gloves here. It goes everywhere. Sticks on your hands and takes days for it to get off. Okay, so mix that up. Okay, and then we'll apply it to both the surfaces. What I've done on the liner is scored it, so we've got a bit of a key for the glue to work on. Okay, that's one of them done. We'll apply that. You notice I've left a lot of the liner around the edge. The reason being is basically when you start to clamp this up and it starts pushing out to the sides, then it catches on the liner. You easily cut off the liner. So I'll bring it back when that's done. The knife has just finished its tempering cycle. During that tempering cycle, what I did was attach the liners to the scales of the wood, so they're being epoxy resined together. So you start to get a feel now to what it would look like on the knife. The next stage is to confirm that the blade is sufficient strength. So we're going to put the blade now on the Rockwell testing machine to make sure that it's between 58 and 60 Rockwell. The knife now is on the Rockwell testing machine. What happens is we'll apply pressure with the this force going upwards, and it pushes it onto a diamond tip, and what happens is therefore is the diamond tip punches or pressurizes the steel to such an indentation that it will give you an indication of the strength of the steel. So we'll do that. So the weight now is just pushing down on the steel. Just wait for it to settle. And now, hopefully, if the heat treating and tempering has been completed successfully, we'll see this dial go just south of the 60 mark. Okay, so what it's reading now is 59 0.5 Rockwell, so perfect. For me, it's right between the 58 and the 60 mark, which is what I'm trying to achieve. So I now know that that knife is fit for use in the field. So we've tested the steel. We know it's strong enough. You might remember that for the blade, I took 1mm off of either side, which basically meant there's about 1 millimetre left in the middle, which now needs to be closed off. So we're going to grind down the actual edge. We're going to start off on the belt with a 120 grit, and then we're going to work up on either side through the belts to almost like a fine polish on a Trizac, what's called a Trizac belt, which is basically 1000 grit. So we'll do that next. Right, okay, so we've now ground out the 1mm in the middle, so pretty much each side is touching. We've done that with a 120 grit. You can probably just make that out now. So the aim now is to go up the grits on the belt sander and give it a polish finish and pretty much start to put the finishing edge on it. We won't give the actual finishing edge until just before the knife is complete with the handles on it, but this will be the next stage. Will make it pretty much sharp, so we'll go through that. So we've gone up the grits. You should see it's fairly well polished now. It should be quite sharp. Let's test. Not sure if you can see this. Okay, so we've done the scales, we've cut them in half, offered them up to the knife to make sure it fits okay, and then I just briefly done a rough outline of the knife, of the scales, just to cut it back a little bit. So the next point to do here, while this is not glued by the way, is while it's fitted to the knife, we're going to have to chamfer the front bits off. So I'm going to do a 45-degree cut there, and then I'm just going to do a bit of a moon semicircle around there. So it basically finishes off the front of the knife, because once it's glued on, once the scales are glued on, working around this area would be impossible. I should have actually mentioned, you'll see different scales here now. The previous one, once I did the cut, realised there's a slight split actually in the wood. Which means over time it would become inherently weak. So I've discarded that scales. I'm now working with a different set. This is Coco Polo. So I'm going to work with this one now. Right, so the front part has been curved over, chamfered and put a curve on it to give it a bit of an aesthetic look of it. So that bit's done. The next stage is to epoxy resin the scales to the blade. Okay then, we're going to do the epoxy resin of the handles. I've marked the handles just to make sure I've got them the right way around, so left and forward, right, forward, sorry, right and a narrow pointing board. I'll do one side at a time. Get it all mixed in and cover all the surface. And do both surfaces, so the steel as well as the scales. One of the points to note here is that when you do fit the scale and that little handle, to wipe off as much of the epoxy resin as possible, especially around the front end of the blade around here, because digging that out once it's set is a bit of a nightmare. Right, that's one side done. Push your pins through and do the other side. One thing I didn't catch on camera is just prior to mixing the glue, what I did is I keyed in on this on the red liners. I just got a scribe really. I made a key for the epoxy resin to get hold of. So once I've laid the glue out and put the second side on, I'll get some clamps and I'll clamp it up. Okay, clamped up, so a big clamp in the middle, some couple of G clamps on either side. What we'll do now is just to get the excess epoxy resin off. So the knife handle's been clamped overnight, so the epoxy resin is well set. So we'll take it off the clamp now and just have a quick look, make sure that the glue hasn't run absolutely everywhere. Well, there it is. Doesn't look too much like a knife now, but obviously the next stage really is to give it an hourglass shape. I'll explain about that in a minute, but basically we'll find the centre point of the handle between the two middle fingers. We'll mark that off, and then we'll chamfer, if you like, thin end towards the front, thicker towards the middle, and then inwards, which will take your little finger, and then obviously flaring out where the pommel will be at the back of the knife. You probably can't see this too well because of the lighting, and it's obviously on a dark background, but what I've done is I've profiled out, roughly speaking, the hourglass. So at the front, approximately 20 millimeters, so 10 either side of the actual blade, flaring out in the centre to 24 millimeters, back into the middle for around 20 millimeters, and then flared out with the pommel. This is just a rough guide. I mean, at the end, it will be down to how it feels in the hand when we get to the fine tuning. So we mark that out so we can rip all the wood off. You can either bandsaw it off, or what I'm going to do is I'm just going to stick it on the grinder and then basically grind it off. So we'll do that next. Right, so you start to see a profile coming out now, done on a platen. The internals, the radius if you like, the curve here. What we'll do later is we'll swap this over, this flat piece, for one of the wheels, and then we'll get a nice even sort of curve in the middle. But for the time being we'll keep this on, so you can see that I've got a profile coming out thin, thicker, and then obviously flaring out at the back with the pommel. What I'm going to do now is to profile the knife around the edge while we've got this flat platen with a 40 grit belt on it. There's a lot of dust around here now. Okay, so you now can see the profile of the knife coming forward. And the wood's starting to, or the grain in the wood, which is cacobolo, really starting to come out now. So the next stage is to change this over, and we'll put it on some small wheels, various diameters, so we can get inside these internal curves. So here, and the particular small one just here. Once that's done, then we start to round off the edges. Okay, hopefully you can start to see that now. It's coming to the shape of a knife. This hourglass that I was talking about earlier, flaring out at the back. As you can see, I need to get right in there. That's the epoxy resin in there, and a very small diameter at the front. So we'll swap over the wheel on the grinder and yeah, do a bit more grinding. Bring you back later. Okay, so we've now completed, if you like, the shaping of the actual handle of the scales with using the 40 grit grinder. What we're going to do now is pretty much repeat all the process, but using a higher grit. So I'm going to work up from 120s right up to the 1000 grit Trizac belt. And what we'll do, and what we will see then, is the grain really starting to come out and smooth it down and really sort of get finishing the actual physical shape of the knife. The final stage of this is all done by hand. So this next stage is really the completion on the bandsaw. Sorry, bandsaw? The grinder. Okay, that pretty much finishes all the work done on the machine. The rest of this stuff now is going to be done by hand. So the final thing is to get a lot of wet and dry and finish off the actual scales, so to a finishing effect. Once that's done, we'll put it on a buffing machine just to really pull out the grain. But as of the machine activities, that's all done now. Everything else by hand. Probably one of the favourite parts of making the knife is actually the final sanding of the scale knife, and in particular with wood or certain synthetic material. You can really start to see the grain coming out, and it feels nice. So I'm just going to carry on doing this for quite a while actually, working up the grits. We're on a 400 grit at the moment, getting all the burrs and the scratches out that have been caused on the grinding machine, and yeah, just making it Feel good in the hand. So I'll carry on doing this, and then I'll bring you back later. Okay, it's been quite a while doing this hand sanding. Coming to the end of it now. The final piece really is to put it on a buffing machine, which sorry, just here we'll buff it up, and then really look at the blade, put the blade on a leather strop, and touch wood, that's it, completed. So just finally finish off this bit now, and then I'll bring you back. Well, it's been buffed up now. You can see the grain's really been pulled out. It looks pretty. This is, like I said earlier, Coco Bolo wood. I think it's from Central America. Anyway, that's it completed, really. I'm just going to have a quick rub down with some 10,000 grit to get the remainder of the polish off. And then the final stage then will be to strop the blade actually on a leather strop. So, as I said, the final piece of the activity is just to give it a couple of swipes over the leather strop, take any burrs off of it. It's not too dissimilar to when you actually sharpen the knife. Remember, sharpening and honing are two different things, but for a Scandi blade, the way you sharpen is, if this is the diamond stone or whetstone, you would place it on the stone, put the bevel, so you can see that it's flat to the stone, and then just roll it up and down, and that's the sharpening. And then obviously you hone it on a leather strop like this. Couple of swipes each way, and it should be good to go. Let's have a look. Bit of paper. Yep. That's pretty much sharp as you need to get it. Like I said before, you don't want to be making this ridiculously sharp. It's just a pointless exercise. This is now fit for use, and that's it. I hope you found the video of interest. Any questions, just let me know. Thanks. Okay, so the final piece, if you like, is to put the aesthetic touch on it. And what I've done is, so the pins that I've used are hollow, and essentially what I've done is mixed some epoxy resins and some dye to basically get a red epoxy resin, and put it into a syringe and filled the hollows of the if you like, the tubing of the pins to achieve that. Aesthetically, it looks quite pleasing, so I'm happy with that. That's it. That completes the making of this knife. Thanks.